Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.
Grab a cup of joe and let's gather round that hay bale. With your hosts, Ann from Andale Homestead, Cayce from Ormsby Farms, Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch, and Sandi from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Here they are. Hey, y'all, hey.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Season 5 of Round the Hay Bale. I'm Ann.
Hey, y'all, what's up? It's Cayce.
And I'm Monica.
I'm Sandi.
Welcome back to the Hay Bale, guys. We are here for episode 2 of season 5. We are talking about incubating farm fresh eggs. And now we had to say farm fresh eggs for anybody out there that doesn't know that you cannot incubate store eggs, okay? Don't be going out to your Walmart or your, Costco and grabbing you 3 dozen eggs and trying to be incubating them, okay? If you're new at this, only use farm fresh eggs. Now, incubating eggs can be so fun. It can be very rewarding, and it's a really great way for you to start your journey into, I guess you want to say, self-sufficient lifestyle, right? I mean, we are firm believers, I think, in more of a community-sufficient lifestyle. I know for us, we always talk about really getting into community and working with other people that are doing things that maybe you're not doing. Working together, I think, is the best outcome. But if you want to be less dependent on those hatcheries or some of the other places, and you want to really have more of a regenerative animal lifestyle in that way, hatching your own eggs is an awesome way to do it. And maybe you don't have the rooster. If you have just hens, just FYI, you're not hatching those eggs, honey. That's not happening. You do need a rooster to be able to have fertile eggs. And just because you have a rooster doesn't mean they're fertile. You can crack them open and check for that. And there's lots of videos and pictures out there to see that little bullseye to make sure you know it's a fertile egg. But when you get started on incubating your own eggs and hatching your own eggs, it is so awesome to know that those babies are yours from the start and that you didn't have to go to Tractor Supply and get them or Atwoods or wherever you're going. You got them from your own house and your own hens, and there they are. And it's just awesome to know that you have that that new life that's regenerating on your own farm. So Cayce has just been starting doing that, and I know Sandi has done it before. So who wants to add some incubating egg conversation into the mix here?
I can kind of jump as a newbie one, just because I do want to say that I've only done this just twice now, but in my delusion, I am a professional, and I am a certified hatcher whisperer, may I add. But no, it was, as Monica said, farm fresh eggs. We have always talked about on the podcast community sustainability and self-sustainability. Whether it's you want to have more chickens to lay eggs to either sell or for your family, or if you want it for meat, you need to be able to reproduce more chickens. And learning, and not just chickens, ducks, turkeys. We're going to talk about an emu. Any poultry that you want to hatch and have on your farm, it's good to learn how to incubate those eggs. So do your research, get a good incubator. I know that me, Ann, and Monica have our Amazon storefronts. We will be adding Sandi to that. I'm sure all of us have or will have an incubator recommendation in the Amazon storefront so that you can see what we use. But this episode is going to be fun because learning tips and tricks from people that have done incubating is just a way for you to get better. So now that I'm off of my soapbox talking about being the incubator whisperer, I'm going to pass it to an actual knowledgeable person, Sandi, and give her time to talk about incubating.
Well, I have to tell you, the first time that I ever incubated eggs, my kids were little. And it was just such a family affair. They were just so excited that they got to pick out those eggs. You know, we looked for clean ones. I mean, you can rub those off a little bit, get them a little cleaner, but don't wash those eggs. And so I let the kids pick out the eggs that we were going to incubate. You know, 21 days later, basically, the little chicks are starting to hatch. I mean, kids are jumping up and down. It is just such a great family homesteading thing to do. You know, as a homesteader, I'm always looking for ways to economize. Doing your own chicks is one of those. So you have the cost of the incubator itself. But I've had mine for a really long time. Mine is just a styrofoam. It has an egg turner in there. I can put 42 eggs in there. And now that I live in 2 different places, I don't need as many chickens as I used to. But my friend that lets me use her chickens all summer long when I'm in Wyoming is bringing me 42 eggs because they have a big place. And she has always let me have these chickens for the 6 months in Wyoming, and then I give them back to her. You know, I get eggs all summer because they're laying hens. And so this is one way I can give back to her because in her incubator right now, she has turkeys. And so I am going to incubate 42 eggs for her. I'll have some videos up on it. And it's just one of those fun things to do. And as homesteaders, we're always trying to work with each other. And the styrofoam incubator that I got, you can buy them online. I got mine at Tractor Supply years and years ago. And it's very durable. And it has the turning rack, so I don't have to turn my eggs a few times every single day. And that is a nice thing. Now, I know that Monica has incubated eggs too. And so I don't know if she has any right now that she's doing, but let's see what she has to say.
So I actually am currently running 5 incubators in my house right now. 5. I'm hoping Eric doesn't really hear this. I think he knows about all of them, but just in case, Eric, I think he knows, but if not, he knows now. No, yeah, I have 5 incubators running. So we hatched out an emu egg this past 2 weeks ago. So I had one incubator that was just for this emu egg. And the reason why is because emus hatch out at a much lower temperature than other eggs. So I couldn't put any of the other eggs in there with it. Like normally I can put chicken eggs and duck eggs and even turkey eggs in the same incubator. They hatch out at different times, but I'm kind of a rebel when it comes to doing that stuff. And I just watch the timing. I know when they're going to start hatching, and then I start watching them and I watch my humidity and I kind of just pull the babies. Now, typically I keep duck and turkey at the same time because they're both 28 days or basic, that gist. And chickens take 21 days, but this emu egg was huge and it will only one of it. And they hatched that one actually is 94.5 is when you hatch. You such a low temperature to incubate that one. So that one, I just refilled that entire incubator up with about a dozen more turkey eggs. 'Tis the season for turkey eggs for me. They're laying like crazy, my turkeys are. And so I am hatching them out as much as possible. So I actually have 4 incubators filled to the brim with turkey eggs. I probably have about 5 or 6 dozen going. And then I've got one incubator that's only incubating about 6 American Breesy eggs because I went down and visited my friend Jake down in where he lives. He's only about an hour from us. And Eric went out there and fished at his place last weekend and he brought home 6 American Breesy eggs for me. So I put them in the incubator and I'm hatching them. And so they'll hatch out in about, 3 weeks or so. So I am running a bunch of eggs right now. And as soon as my babies hatch, because incubators can cost a lot of money too, depending on what you're getting. Now, I think you probably have it's called the Little Giant. It's one of those styrofoam ones. Now, my friend has 2 of those Little Giants. And the reason why I have access to 5 incubators right now is because she brought me 2 of hers. And I hatched out a bunch of goose eggs for her. I hatched out a bunch of Sebastopol goslings recently. And so I still have her incubators. And so I was like, well, if I have her incubators, I might as well throw some turkey eggs in them for myself. But I will say that when you're looking at incubators, and if you're looking at growing larger birds like goslings, geese or turkeys in general, those little giants are fantastic for those bigger birds because when they hatch, they're small, but they're still bigger than chickens sometimes, especially the goslings. And it's really nice to have a bigger space. And I have two different incubators that I keep for myself, and they're not. One of them is the Nurture Right, and that's a pretty typical incubator that a lot of people have. It's a little round dome, and it's the Nurture Right, and it's like a big brand. And then the other one is an IncuView or something, another brand that a lot of people have. I'm looking now at I'm thinking, okay, I think I need to get a little giant for myself once I give her two back to her, because hers are really old and they have stood the test of time, it appears. And it's been really nice to take my just hatched babies out of one incubator and put them into another warmer brooder for a day or two until I can find them a different space. So it's kind of nice to have that many eggs kind of rolling around and kind of doing their thing. I will say that if you're going to incubate eggs, try and get you a incubator with a turner. It definitely makes your life a lot easier. Those little giants that we have out in my dining room right now, where the other eggs are, they don't have turners in them. So every day I have on one side of my egg, I have a straight line. And on the other side of my egg, I have a round circle, like a oval. And every day I flip those eggs. So all the eggs are circles and then all the eggs are lines. And I do that 4 times a day, usually, if I can remember, or I make the kids do it. And so twice a day I see the circles and twice a day I see the lines. And Miss Ann's face says it all. That's exactly how a lot of people feel when they think Miss Ann is making this face like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work.
Wow.
It can be a lot of work if you don't have a turner. A turner is worth its weight in gold. It's worth your time, trust me. Because to know that
really
the egg
is,
turner is
yeah.
doing what you would have to do 4 times a day, and the more you rotate, I think the better outcome. Miss Sandi, did you notice that? Did you set yours for more rotations or not? Because I know with my chickens and my ducks, I know if I have my rotation on between 4 and 6 times a day, it actually works better. I have a better hatch rate when I have it at 6 times a day sometimes than when I have it on the 4. I've played with that.
I have to agree with that. And, one of the things also, if your incubator does not turn by itself, every time you open that, the humidity, the temperature changes. And so it has to work its way back up. And, you always want, until that very last few days, you want it 98.8 to 102 degrees for chickens. And so every time you open that, so you're thinking you're opening it 4 times a day, you're turning them because you have to rotate them. It's a lot of work for not only you, but for the incubator, and it's stress on those baby chicks inside their shell. And so I think because when I bought mine, I bought the egg turner because I thought, I'm not opening this all the time. And mine has a thermometer with it. But one of the other tricks that I do is it came with this little plastic piece that you can lay on top of some eggs and put another thermometer in there. And so I do that. Just because you just know exactly what that temperature is then.
Okay, I have like 1,000 questions. I've never done this. So my mind is a little bit blown. I would like to do that, although we do live in a residential area. I can't have roosters, and I would like to have some baby chickens, but I'd have to get eggs from someplace else. And I could potentially incubate eggs gotten from another fertilized egg farm thing. But, okay, so every bird to me has, what I'm hearing, a different temperature that you have to have in there. You have to have a certain amount of water in your incubator. You have to have a certain number of days, and then potentially put them in, what is it called that you put your little babies in? That you, after they're hatched, it's
Like
some kind
brooder.
of a brooder. And then you have to have a brooder. Yeah, where do you find out all this information? Right here on our podcast, of course.
Mhm.
But in other areas. I mean, how do you know what kind of water, what kind of temperature? Is it Google pants or, what do we do?
When I bought my incubator years and years ago, it had a booklet, and it told you the different eggs that you were going to hatch, what humidities, what temperatures. Because like for a chicken, for the most part, it's 60% humidity is what you want. And the water is underneath this wire mesh, and then the egg turner is on top.
Okay.
Then that couple days before, when you take the egg turner out and you're just laying the eggs down and they go into lockdown, when you're not going to open the incubator at all before they hatch, it's up to 70%. But the temperature goes down a little teeny bit. It goes to 98.5, I'm thinking. Monica, correct me if I'm wrong about that. But I think that's correct. And
Okay.
she's giving me a thumbs up. So
Yeah,
yes.
usually the temperature fluctuates. Yeah.
But like Monica, I'm sorry to interrupt Sandy, but you open yours 4 times a day. How does it stay? How does it keep the humidity and the temperature? And why isn't the water like going away in 2 seconds? Because you keep opening the top and the water could go away. Or, how do you maintain that?
Okay, so I'm probably the worst person in the world to ask because I don't care that much. I mean, I do. Look, I want these babies to live, okay? Like, I'm gonna be real honest. I don't take any one of these fertile babies for granted. If I find a mom with a clutch of eggs and I find that she's even got one alive in there, I immediately will turn an incubator on and start to try to hatch it. And Eric's like, I mean, he's looked at me before and said, "You're literally going to turn an incubator on for one egg." And I'm like, this is a life. It matters to me.
Right.
I don't care that it's only just brand new. He's like, "You've got 2 more weeks and you're going to have one egg." I'm like, well, we better go get some more then, because I'm not going to just let it die. So I just want to precede what I'm about to say with that. I have so many things going on in my life that I don't make farm things complicated if I can help it. So I keep incubation very simple for myself. I put the eggs in the incubator. I check the temperature. If I rotate it, I rotate it. I put the lid back on. I look at the temperature. I see the humidity. I don't freak out about it. I put a little cup of water in there if I need to, put it on the side and let it sit there and it gets it. I don't spaz about it. The big foamy ones, the big foam ones have hatched out really well, and I don't do anything extra with it. I pour a little bit, I'd like take a little bit of water and go bloop, and then I put a little water in and let it go. My other incubators say what the humidity is. They have like a little dial on them. I come in and check it once a day. If the humidity looks like it's in a good range, I leave it be. I don't stress. I walk in, I look at it, it's good to go. There have been days where I've been like, oh, did I even check those eggs today? Did they rotate? Did anybody hear those eggs rotating today? I mean, it kind of does itself. You get an incubator that's going to do a lot of the work for itself, okay? The ones where I've had to open and close, such as life, and you have to do what you got to do, and I'm not going to stress over it. I just didn't. I opened it, I closed it, I walked away. I let it get back to temperature, and I don't fret. When a baby is hatching, I look at it, and and Sandy's going to tell you, there's this period of lockdown where, and I know like Lisa from Yogi Hollow, she's very strict on lockdown. Lockdown is lockdown. I am not a lockdown girl. I am really bad. I am very, very bad, because if I see a bird hatching, I watch the bird. I'm like, it's hatching. And then I watch it. And if it looks like it's struggling after about 12 or however many hours, whatever it is, I'm like, oh, this bird needs my help. I'm going to help it. And I will open that thing up. I will grab that bird. I will mess with it as much as I can, and I will help it. The survival of the fittest thing, it exists, but I try to give it every bit of survival I can. And I have saved so many ducks because I know that I do hatch several birds at the same time. So my humidity does get wonky. And so because of that, I've had to. Now, I've also had things where it's just been all ducks. And I've had a couple of them get stuck and all that. But yes, I mean, it's definitely a thing where I'm not super crazy lockdown girl. And I know there are a lot of people that are really heavy on lockdown, but I just don't, because I want to make sure they're alive. And so I'm always like getting in there and moving things around. So yeah, I'm probably the worst one to ask about the temperatures and all the humidity, because I care, but I just don't fuss at it, and I don't make it hard for myself. I can't. I think Cayce wanted to say something too.
No,
over
I
there
actually I
geeking
did.
out.
I wanted to kind of tell a Monica story because when I did my first round of incubating, I was panicking, and Anne, I had the same questions as you did. Like at the very beginning, you're thinking, "Oh gosh, what I do? I'm checking it literally every 30 minutes. I'm like, it's not keeping humidity. What am I doing? I'm a terrible person." And we were like, "Okay, we'll call Monica." Monica picks up. She said, "I'm going to start off by saying, I don't sweat it. Do you see it turning? Yes. Is it the right temperature? Yes. You're good." Literally, that was our good conversation on incubating. And I have to tell you, I had a 90% hatch rate out of all that were in there. Every single thing made, besides 2 eggs out of, I think, 36 were in there, hatched. So, one thing that I did learn that I want to say to newbie incubators, is the last 4 days, if you do have that Turner. I know with mine's just like I don't know the name of it. It's to the left of Monica at her house. It's the same one. Has the yellow Turners, the egg Turners. And the last 4 days, you do want to take your eggs out of those Turners and lay it on the mesh bottom and let them live its best life for the last 4 days. I guess that's when the lockdown starts. I wasn't really big on the lockdown because I did have a chicken that needed to be helped, and he's thriving. Sadly enough, he is a rooster, but he's thriving out in my little brooder. But the last 4 days, because I had 2 turkeys that hatched, and they're just walking over the turners as the turners are turning, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what do I need to do?" And my other friend says, "Casey, take the turners out. Just put the eggs on the ground." So, newbies, last 4 days, take those eggs out of your turners, lay them on the floor, that mesh floor, and it needs to be a higher humidity those last couple of days. And it made me think of that comment because Sandi talked about the 70% for the last couple of days for once they hatch. You do want to also leave the baby chicks in there after they hatch for about 24 hours. Let them fluff up. They'll look wet and terrible and like they've been drowned, but they haven't. Let them fluff up to little, chicken nuggets. And then that's when you pull them out of the 24 hours, introduce them. But that was the 2 things that I wish I knew beforehand is to leave them be for 24 hours and take them out of the rotators in the last 4 days of their hatching period. So that was my little 2 cents I wanted to add in.
Hey, one of the things that I like to do, and Monica might do this too, is add, I don't know, 8 or 10 days. If you have any question on if they were fertile or not, you should candle them. Use a heavy flashlight. You can buy a little machine that can do it, just to make sure that it's got a baby in there and you're not wasting your time with that space. And pretty soon it's going to smell horrible.
Does it really? Does it smell bad?
Well, if it would, it's rotating. What if it's hard to crack because it's getting older? You don't want that in there. So I usually do it, 8 days. Some people say 10 days. I think it just depends on what you kind of get into a rhythm of incubating. And, at the very beginning, you're marking your calendar so okay, this is the day I have to check. I have to candle my eggs to make sure that they're okay, that every single one of them has a baby chick in there. If you have dark eggs, it's a little bit harder to tell. And sometimes you just got to just hope and go, okay, I can't see through these at all. I'm just trusting that these are all babies in there.
Okay.
Because it is harder.
Turkey eggs are like
Because,
that.
we have talked about going and getting.
The turkey eggs are a lot darker,
turkey
and
eggs are like
it's hard to candle those. That was another reason I had to call Monica, is because with a chicken egg, you're looking for that embryo, you're looking for the veins, and most of the time, if it's fertile, you can see it pretty vividly on when you're candling it. You can see the veins, you can see the lines. Turkey eggs are a lot tougher of a shell and darker, so it's a lot harder. But that's why I know I personally do 10 days to candle, because turkey eggs sometimes take a little bit longer before you can really tell whether they're fertile or not.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say too was when you're talking about humidity, okay? Because again, I'm not one of these people I just try not to pay that much attention to it, because if I do start to really focus in on it, I think that my brain will immediately obsess over it, and then I won't stop, and I'll just keep coming back. So I have to just try to let it go. Just, okay, I did it, I'm done. One of the things you have to remember too is that one of the things a friend of mine does is she writes on every egg with a pencil. It's not a huge writing. She doesn't write everywhere. But as soon as she puts those eggs in, she lets all of them sit. She collects as many as she's going to. She lets them sit still in a container or whatever for about 12 to 15 hours or so. And then she'll put them in before she goes to bed that night, right? And what she does is she marks the date they're going to hatch, just about, because she uses the styrofoam ones, right? So she puts the date on them that they're going to hatch, and she marks her calendar, but she writes on that date. So if she knows that this is a turkey egg, it's going to be 28 days. She counts 28 days and puts their hatch date on them. So what she did for me was, I was hatching out a bunch of Muscovy duck eggs. She knew that they were going to take anywhere between 30 and 32 days at the most. And so she wrote the end date that they would hatch, the last date possible. So when I was lifting up the incubator looking to see, okay, am I rotating them right? She wrote inside the circle, because I had to hand turn all those. She wrote inside the circle, May 2nd or 3rd or whatever it was. So I knew that if they hadn't hatched by that date, then they were going to not probably hatch. And I candled them just to check at the end to make sure. But I always gave them a few extra days. Another thing to remember too, because of the humidity, once one of the eggs in that incubator hatches, there is now an excess of humidity that you don't have to add any water that last day or two, because once that first one hatches, now you've got a whole mess of humidity in there, because that egg is now busted open and you've got all that moisture from that first chick. So let it be. In my opinion, let it be. Don't fuss at any more humidity. Don't worry about it being one or the other. Just watch it and watch your babies, and you'll know. You'll see them hatching and you'll know. And even if you're a first timer, just enjoy the show, because I really do think it's one of those things that God provides us such a great intimate portrait of just creation in that. You're looking at this beautiful egg that you didn't do anything to have anything to do with. You didn't do anything with this. And you put it in an incubator and you're watching God just make this baby. And it does its own thing. It hatches out right in front of your eyes. And you're like, wow, that's pretty amazing. I didn't have to do anything. I mean, I kept the humidity up but there's been plenty of eggs. Trust me, I didn't do nothing. I stuck in an incubator, made sure the thing was on, and that's it. I walked away. And it hatched anyway. There's been many eggs that I did not think were going to hatch, aka emu egg that was hatched, and it hatched. Okay. I did the least, okay? I did the least in this. So don't make it super hard. If you have to, you can write on it with a pencil. I do not advise markers or anything like that, but pencils, and making sure you don't overthink it, because it doesn't have to be hard.
Okay. Yeah, one of the hard things when it's your very first time of incubating eggs is when the chicks start to hatch. Now they have what they call, it's a special tooth, and that's what's actually pecking at the shell. And that actually dries up and goes away. It drops off. They don't keep that. And so it's a lot of energy that it's taking that little chick to make that first hole, right? And then they'll probably sleep for 8 hours. And then they start moving around and they start going around and they start pecking so that they'll be able to get out. And they literally push their head up to the top of that shell. And that's part of it, pushing it. And it can be scary when it's your very first time and you're going, oh, they're not going to get out of that shell. And there are exceptions. Sometimes you do have to open the thing and help them. But for the most part, they will break that all up. And if they have to go to sleep for a while and then work again after 8 hours, don't worry about it. That's just their natural process. And they're just wet and gooey when they get out. But that incubator is warm and it will dry and they'll become this little puff ball. And they have enough energy. You don't have to think, oh, I have to put some food in there. You don't have to do anything.
Nope.
It's all natural, like Monica says.
Yeah, they do their own thing.
I'm hooked now. I mean, we wanted to maybe go and buy some pullets, but we were waiting a little while, trying to resist because chicken math is real. But I want to do it now. I'm interested. I think maybe with your help and this podcast help, maybe I can do it. That would be
You
great.
can do it. You can do it. Just get an incubator and do it.
You
Yeah,
can
and then
do
when they
it.
hatch, you have when you have to have a brooder. A brooder can be a box, and
That's what I was
know,
going to ask because
it
I mean,
can
I
be
have.
it can be a box. It can be a bathtub you don't use.
Okay.
And they do need to be warm. They're going to cluster around if the room or the box is cold. They're going to cluster around where that heat is, so that that maybe you need to make that room a little bit warmer.
Okay.
But you don't have to buy a brooder. Use a box. Use
Because
something
I
that you
do
have.
I have a plastic container that I
The tub.
cut a hole in the top and put netting on top. Yeah, it's a tub. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we brought our other girls up in there. And I would get a heat lamp, but I clamped it on a chair above them so that I didn't make the plastic tub too hot. But anyway,
That's all you would need, Miss Ann. Whatever you use for those babies that you brought in that first time, that's all you
yeah.
need. You take them right out of the incubator and you put them right in that brooder. That's your brooder. I only just
Okay.
transfer mine because I'll take one or two out, put it in another container until I can get my outside brooder done. So yeah, that's exactly what you'll do. Whatever you would bring them home from Tractor Supply in is what you're going to use right out of the incubator.
Okay. I can do that. What if they're all boys? That would be.
Well, it could happen.
Yeah.
But like where I live, I can't have roosters.
Me either.
But there's always somebody that will take them.
Yeah.
And also
We'll work on that.
to throw a little comment in on that, Miss Ann, if you and your husband wanted chicken meat, the roosters at the point of when it's time to turn them into a chicken dinner, they're not crowing yet. So you could hide it a little bit to be able, if it turned out, because I had 13 chicks that I got last year, and 9 of them turned out to be boys. And something had to be done with 9 boys because you just need one. Just one if you want some fertile eggs, but you do need one. But yeah, it's I would say either somebody's always looking, like Miss Sandy said, but if you want your own chicken meat too, by the time you're ready to process them, they haven't started crowing just yet. There is that fine line between that and waking you up at 2:00 in the morning because it has found its voice and it wants to be heard.
Okay. That all sounds amazing.
It really is. It's such a cool thing. And like Sandy said, especially with a family, it's the most amazing thing to watch kids, grandkids, whoever it is. It's a really cool journey to kind of take your family through. And even if you have to sell them or bless somebody else with them when you're finished, a lot of times I incubate eggs and then I'm like, okay, I'm not allowed to keep these. Somebody come take them. It's such a fun journey. So, maybe just getting some eggs and incubate them will be a journey that you enjoy and you can bless other people with instead of keeping them,
So I have another question. It just occurred to me. So if I get them, I'm a traveler. I go back and forth to the grandbabies' houses. Can you take the incubator with you? Or do you have to leave it on its own? Usually somebody's at the house all the time, but is it mobile?
Look, my answer. I'm like, if you have an automatic turner, just set it and forget it. I mean,
Yeah.
don't overthink it. You're not gone for weeks at a time. I
No.
mean, that you don't trust me. I'm the one that went away for a weekend and came home to an emu egg or emu baby. But all of our incubators except for 2 are automatic. I don't have to worry about them. I can go away for the weekend. I can come back and everything is fine.
Okay, good.
Don't stress over it. Incubating eggs is not going to control your life. Don't let it.
Well,
It's
thank
not your
goodness for
business,
that.
right? It's not your business.
Right.
It's just the thing you're doing.
One other thing to think about is when you're going to incubate your eggs. Because a lot of times people will do them in the springtime. You're not going to get eggs from those chicks that summer. But I have friends that they do most of their incubating in the fall because they have space, they have heat that they can grow up. So when it becomes springtime, those chickens are big enough that they're going to be hen layers.
Huh.
So it just depends on what works with your life.
Fall would be easier.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. What's going to work for you, what's going to work for your lifestyle, and what's going to be, the most fun. Have fun with it. Don't ever think it, have fun. Look, we have had such a good conversation on this episode. It is 2 episodes into our season, and I am having a blast with our new fun co-host Sandi. And after this episode, she's not new anymore. So anyway, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening to us. We have had such a good time. There's been so much information here. If you want more information on incubating eggs, or you're confused, or you have questions, reach out to us and let us know if you want another episode on this topic, or if you have any ideas for topics that you want to hear about in the future, because we would love to be able to have a conversation and really dig deep into those things that you want to hear about.
Are you enjoying our hay bale topics? To learn more, click on the LinkTree link to get all of our product recommendations along with discount codes and more.